What if some of the most important discoveries in human history were never meant to be revealed, not lost, not forgotten, but deliberately hidden? Because throughout history, there have been moments where something was found, and then suddenly it disappeared. Files sealed, access denied, information restricted, as if the truth itself was too dangerous to be known. Before we go deeper, stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to uncover may completely change how you see history. Because this isn't just about discovery. This is about control. Let's begin with one of the most controversial places on Earth, Area 51, a location surrounded by secrecy. No public access. No clear explanations. For decades, people have speculated about what happens inside. Advanced technology, experimental aircraft, or something far more mysterious. The truth is, no one outside truly knows, because information is tightly controlled. Now think about that. A place that exists, a place funded, a place active, but a place you cannot understand. Now shift to another mystery beneath the ice of Antarctica, a frozen continent, larger than entire countries, mostly unexplored, restricted by international agreements. Scientists study it, but large parts remain off limits. And over the years, there have been whispers of unusual structures, strange formations, things that don't fully match natural explanations. But very little is confirmed. Very little is shared. And that raises a question. If nothing unusual is there, why so much restriction? Now go back in time to Roswell incident. A crash was reported. Debris recovered. Initial statements suggested something unusual. Then suddenly, the story changed. Official explanations replaced earlier claims. And what followed was decades of debate. What was really found? Why was the story altered? And what was never shown to the public? Because when information changes suddenly, it creates doubt. And doubt creates curiosity, which leads to a powerful realization. Not all discoveries become public knowledge. Some are controlled, filtered, or hidden completely. Which brings us to the most important question. How many discoveries have we never heard about? Because in the next part, we go deeper into real findings that were restricted, sealed, or quietly removed from public view. Stay with the story, because the truth may not be as open as we think. What if some discoveries weren't just hidden, but quietly removed from public view? Not denied, not destroyed, just controlled. Because sometimes the most powerful way to hide something is to let it exist, but limit who can see it. Before we go further, stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to uncover may completely change how you see official history. Because now, we are entering real discoveries that were restricted, sealed, or suddenly made inaccessible. Let's begin with a place deep beneath Egypt, inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. For centuries, this structure has been studied, measured, explored, and yet new voids have been detected inside it using modern scanning technology. Hidden spaces, large chambers, areas that exist but remain unexplored. Now think about that. We know they are there, but we don't know what's inside. Access is limited. Information is carefully released, and speculation grows. What could be hidden in spaces no one has entered? Now move to China, where the tomb of Qin Shi Huang lies buried. This is not just any tomb. It is one of the most significant archaeological sites ever discovered. Surrounded by the famous terracotta army, thousands of life-size soldiers guarding the emperor in the afterlife. But here's the strange part. The central tomb itself has never been opened, not because we can't, but because it hasn't been allowed. Why? Officially, to preserve it, to protect what's inside. But reports suggest something unusual. High levels of mercury detected in the soil. Ancient writings describing rivers of mercury flowing inside. A tomb sealed for over 2,000 years, and still untouched. Now ask yourself, is it protection or hesitation? Because sometimes what lies inside may be too valuable or too dangerous to reveal. And this pattern continues. Artifacts discovered, then moved. Sites explored, then restricted. Information released, but incomplete. Because control over discovery is control over knowledge. And control over knowledge is power. which leads to a deeper question. What happens when a discovery is so unusual that it challenges everything we believe? Because in the next part, we explore findings that didn't just raise questions. They threatened to rewrite history itself. Stay with the story, because some truths aren't just hidden. They're avoided. What if some discoveries weren't just hidden, but ignored because they didn't fit the story? Because sometimes the most dangerous discoveries are not the ones that are secret, but the ones that challenge everything we think we know. Before we go further, stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to uncover may completely change how you see history itself. Because now, we are entering discoveries that don't just raise questions. They rewrite the timeline. Let's begin in Turkey, at a site known as Göbekli Tepe. This place should not exist. Massive stone pillars, intricate carvings, perfect alignment, all built over 11,000 years ago. Before agriculture, before known civilizations, at a time when humans were supposed to be simple hunter-gatherers. And yet, this structure suggests something very different. Advanced organization, complex design, a level of intelligence that doesn't match what we were taught. And here's the strange part. After it was built, it was deliberately buried, not destroyed, not abandoned, buried on purpose, as if someone wanted to hide it. Now ask yourself, why would a civilization hide something so important? Now move to the ocean floor near Japan, where the Yonaguni Monument lies beneath the water. Massive stone formations, sharp edges, step-like structures. Some believe it is natural. Others believe it is man-made. If it is man-made, it could be evidence of a lost civilization beneath the sea. But the debate continues. No clear answer, no full agreement, which means one thing. Uncertainty remains, and uncertainty keeps things unresolved. Now think about the pattern. A structure too old to explain. A monument that may not fit known history. Sites that raise more questions than answers. Because when discoveries don't align with established timelines, they become difficult to accept, difficult to explain, and sometimes easier to ignore. Because changing history is not simple. It affects everything. Education, beliefs, understanding of human origins, and that level of change is not always welcomed, which leads to a powerful thought. What if history is not incomplete, but selectively told? Because in the next part, we go deeper into discoveries that were not just ignored, but actively controlled, restricted, or removed. Stay with the story, because some truths don't just challenge the past. They threaten it. What if some discoveries weren't just ignored, but actively controlled, not debated, not questioned, but restricted the moment they were found? Because sometimes it's not about whether something is real. It's about who is allowed to access it. Before we go further, stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to uncover may completely change how you see information itself. Because now, we are entering discoveries that didn't just raise questions. They triggered control. Let's begin with a sealed archive known as the Vatican Apostolic Archive. For centuries, this collection has stored countless historical documents, ancient texts, letters, records that span across empires. But access is extremely limited. Only selected researchers are allowed in. Only certain documents are made available. The rest remains hidden behind walls few can enter. Now think about that. A place holding pieces of human history, but not fully open to the world. What could be inside? What hasn't been revealed? And why is access so controlled? Now shift to Iraq, where ancient Mesopotamian sites have revealed artifacts from one of the earliest known civilizations. Tablets, inscriptions, records written thousands of years ago. But many of these discoveries have been removed, relocated, stored in museums or private collections, and sometimes lost in conflict, which means pieces of history are no longer where they were found, separated from their context, making the full story harder to understand. Now consider something even more modern. Data, digital information, records that can be stored, copied, or deleted. In today's world, control over information is faster than ever. A discovery can be shared instantly, or erased just as quickly. And that creates a new kind of mystery. Not just what was found, but what was never allowed to be seen. Because control doesn't always look like secrecy. Sometimes it looks like limitation. Partial access, incomplete information, carefully released details, just enough to inform, but not enough to fully understand. And when you combine all of this, the archives, the artifacts, the restricted access, you begin to see a pattern. Discovery is not just about finding something. It's about deciding what happens next. Who sees it? Who studies it? Who understands it? Which leads to the final question. What happens when a discovery is too important to be shared? Because in the final part, everything connects, and we uncover the real reason some discoveries may never be fully revealed. Stay with the story, because some truths aren't just hidden. They're controlled. What if the biggest discoveries in human history were never meant to be fully revealed? Because when you connect everything, the restricted locations, the sealed chambers, the unexplored sites, and controlled information, you begin to see a pattern that is impossible to ignore. This isn't random. This isn't coincidence. This is control. Before we reveal the final truth, stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to realize may completely change how you see knowledge itself. Because now, everything connects. At Area 51, access is limited and information is tightly controlled. Beneath the ice of Antarctica, vast regions remain unexplored and restricted. Inside the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, hidden voids exist, but remain beyond reach. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a discovery challenged everything we thought we knew, and was buried long ago. And within the Vatican Apostolic Archive, countless documents remain locked away from the public. Different places, different discoveries, but the same outcome: limited access, restricted knowledge, controlled understanding. And that leads to the final realization. Knowledge is power, and power is rarely shared freely. Because when a discovery has a potential to change history, it also has the power to change beliefs, systems, control, and that level of change is not always welcomed. Sometimes it's easier to manage information than to explain it, to limit access instead of opening it, to release parts of the truth instead of all of it. And that doesn't always mean something is being hidden, but it does mean something is being controlled. And here's the most powerful thought of all. What if we only know a fraction of what has been discovered? What if there are findings we've never heard about, records never released, sites never shown, truths never explained? Because even in today's world, information can be filtered, edited, restricted, and that means somewhere, right now, there could be discoveries that exist, but are not meant for us to fully understand. So the next time you learn something about history, remember this. You might not be seeing the full picture. If you want more hidden truths, restricted discoveries, and untold history, make sure you subscribe and stay with us. Because the deeper you look, the more you realize the truth is not always what we're told.